Imagine the Earth as a patient in critical condition, its body burning with fever. The fever is climate change, and humanity is scrambling to find a cure. For decades, scientists, activists, and governments have pleaded for reductions in carbon emissions, for greener technologies, for lifestyle changes. But as the years pass, the fever only worsens. Wildfires rage with unprecedented intensity, ice sheets collapse into the sea, and once stable weather systems spiral into chaos. Out of this desperation, an idea emerges, controversial, bold, and almost unthinkable. What if we could hack the planet itself? What if, instead of merely adapting to climate change, humanity could take direct control of Earth's climate systems? This is the premise of geoengineering, large-scale technological interventions designed to deliberately manipulate the Earth's environment to counteract global warming. But with such power comes an unsettling question. Are we becoming saviors of the Earth, or reckless gods playing with forces we barely understand? This introduction sets the stage for one of the most controversial debates of our time. Geoengineering is not just science, it's science fiction stepping into reality. It forces us to ask, how far are we willing to go to fix the mess we created? And more importantly, what are the hidden dangers of tampering with a planet that has balanced itself for billions of years? In this video, we will explore the technologies, the promises, the dangers, and the ethical dilemmas behind geoengineering. We'll dive into schemes that sound like they belong in a Hollywood movie. Giant space mirrors reflecting sunlight, artificial volcanoes injecting particles into the stratosphere, and even genetically engineered trees designed to suck up carbon dioxide. The question isn't just whether these ideas could work, it's whether they should. Because when humanity decides to play with the thermostat of the Earth, the consequences may be far greater than we can imagine. The wild proposals. How scientists want to hack the climate. When people hear the word geoengineering, their first reaction is often disbelief. And it's no wonder. Many of these proposals sound like they were pulled straight from a science fiction novel. Yet, these are real ideas being researched, debated, and in some cases, even tested. The most famous approach is called solar radiation management, SRM. The idea is simple. If the Earth is warming because too much sunlight is being trapped, why not block some of that sunlight? One method proposes launching thousands of aircraft to spray aerosols, tiny reflective particles, into the stratosphere. This would mimic the cooling effect of volcanic eruptions. In fact, when Mount Pinatubo erupted in 1991, it released so much ash and sulfur dioxide that global temperatures temporarily dropped by half a degree Celsius. Could we recreate this effect artificially, buying ourselves time against global warming? Another wild idea is space-based geoengineering. Imagine a giant mirror orbiting Earth, reflecting just enough sunlight back into space to cool the planet. While this concept is still decades away from feasibility, it represents the kind of out-of-the-box thinking driving the geoengineering debate. Then there are carbon dioxide removal, CDR, techniques. Unlike SRM, which manipulates sunlight, CDR focuses on sucking carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. Giant machines, sometimes called direct air capture devices, already exist, though they are expensive and energy-intensive. Another proposal is to seed the oceans with iron to stimulate the growth of phytoplankton, which absorb carbon dioxide through photosynthesis. Yet, such interventions could disrupt fragile marine ecosystems in unpredictable ways. Perhaps the most ambitious and controversial idea is bioengineering the biosphere itself. Scientists are experimenting with genetically modified trees that grow faster and store more carbon. Others imagine designing microbes that could be released into the soil to eat greenhouse gases. But can we trust engineered life forms not to spiral out of control? The wildness of these proposals is both exciting and terrifying. On one hand, they showcase humanity's ingenuity and determination to fight climate change. On the other, they reveal how far we are willing to go to avoid facing the root problem, our addiction to fossil fuels. Geoengineering offers the promise of a quick fix, but every quick fix has a hidden cost. The risks, what could possibly go wrong? Here's the chilling truth. Geoengineering is not just about cooling the planet. It's about tampering with a system so vast, so interconnected, that even small interventions could unleash unintended consequences. Take solar radiation management, for example. Yes, spraying aerosols could lower global temperatures. But what about rainfall patterns? Studies suggest that such interventions could cause droughts in Africa or disrupt monsoons in Asia. threatening the food supply of billions. Cooling the planet unevenly could destabilize weather systems in ways we can't predict. Another risk is determination shock. If we start geoengineering and then suddenly stop, for political, economic, or technical reasons, the planet could experience a rapid spike in temperatures, even worse than if we had done nothing. This is because the accumulated carbon dioxide would remain in the atmosphere, but the cooling shield would vanish overnight. Carbon dioxide removal isn't risk-free either. Ocean fertilization could lead to toxic algal blooms, dead zones, and disruptions in marine food chains. Direct air capture machines require enormous amounts of energy, raising the question, are we solving one problem by creating another? And then there's the ethical danger, moral hazard. If world leaders believe geoengineering can solve climate change, will they abandon efforts to cut emissions? Will fossil fuel companies use geoengineering as an excuse to continue business as usual? The scariest part is that geoengineering experiments can't be fully tested on a small scale. We can simulate them with computers, but the only real test is the planet itself. That means we won't know the full consequences until it's too late. Geoengineering is like giving powerful, untested medicine to a patient without knowing the side effects. It could save the Earth, or kill it faster. Who controls the thermostat of the Earth? Let's say humanity decides to go forward with geoengineering. Here's a question that should terrify you. Who gets to decide how to control the climate? Imagine the United States sprays aerosols into the atmosphere to cool the Earth, but the side effect is a drought in India. Or China launches a space mirror, but it changes rainfall in Africa. Who takes responsibility? Who pays the price? Unlike cutting carbon emissions, geoengineering has the potential to benefit some regions while devastating others. This could spark international conflicts, accusations of climate warfare, and even real wars fought over weather manipulation. Right now, there are almost no global laws regulating geoengineering. A single country, or even a billionaire with enough money, could decide to launch a geoengineering project without the world's consent. Think about that. The future of the planet could be shaped by the decisions of a small group without democratic accountability. This raises profound ethical questions. Do we have the right to manipulate the planet on such a massive scale? Is geoengineering a global public good or a dangerous tool of power? Some argue that governance is possible, that the world could create treaties and organizations to manage geoengineering responsibly. But history tells us that cooperation on such a scale is fragile at best. If countries can't even agree on cutting emissions, how will they agree on something as radical as controlling the climate itself? The truth is, geoengineering doesn't just challenge science, it challenges politics, ethics, and the very idea of global justice. The science fiction future, a planet under human control. Now, let's step into the future. Imagine a fim de year 2100. Geoengineering has become reality. The skies are slightly dimmer because aerosols are constantly pumped into the atmosphere. Giant machines hum across deserts, sucking carbon dioxide out of the air. Forests grow with genetically engineered trees designed for maximum carbon capture. Satellites beam solar energy back to Earth, while mirrors in orbit reflect excess sunlight into space. On the surface, humanity has avoided climate catastrophe. But the world feels different. This is look natural. Ecosystems are constantly tweaked and adjusted, like a machine in need of maintenance. The climate is no longer a wild, natural system. It is a managed system, controlled by human hands. This vision raises unsettling questions. Have we saved nature or destroyed it? If the planet is artificially maintained, does nature even exist anymore? What happens to our spiritual and cultural connection to the Earth if we see it not as a living being, but as a system we engineer? Science fiction often warns us about the dangers of hubris. From Frankenstein to Jurassic Park, stories remind us that when humans play God, the results rarely end well. Geoengineering might allow us to survive, but it could also trap us in a cycle of endless intervention, where the Earth is never truly healed, only patched. The future of geoengineering could be one of salvation, or one of regret. Should we dare to play God? So, after exploring the promises and perils of geoengineering, we return to the question, should humanity dare to play God with the planet? On one hand, geoengineering may be our last line of defense. If climate change accelerates faster than expected, and tipping points like ice sheet collapse or Amazon rainforest dieback occur, geoengineering could buy us precious time. It could prevent the worst outcomes and give humanity a fighting chance. On the other hand, the risks are enormous. The unintended consequences could be catastrophic. The political and ethical challenges are daunting. And the temptation to use geoengineering as a crutch, instead of addressing the root causes of climate change, is dangerously high. Perhaps the real lesson of geoengineering is this: there are no easy fixes. The Earth is not a machine to be tinkered with, but a complex, living system. Every action we take ripples through the system in ways we cannot fully predict. But the fact remains, we may not have a choice. As the climate crisis deepens, geoengineering will move from the fringes of science to the center of political debate. The question is not just, can we do it? But, who will decide, and at what cost? The story of geoengineering is ultimately the story of humanity itself, our brilliance, our arrogance, and our desperate struggle to survive. Whether it becomes our salvation or our downfall depends not just on the technology, but on the wisdom with which we choose to use it. So, are we saving the planet, or rewriting it in our own image? Only the future will tell.